Hey bonjour! Unreal Engine 5.6 preview is out and I've already made a video about that, so don't hesitate to check it out, it's great. And today I wanted to talk about animation again and why you should animate in Unreal Engine starting with 5.6. Yes, let's dive again into some new features and improvements and also chat a bit about where the industry is heading. Let's go. Here's a little scene and animation I put together with our good old friend Wally Coyote. I thought it'd be the perfect character to illustrate today's video. So many fun memories with him, right? So why you should animate in Unreal Engine 5.6 instead of Blender or Maya? I get it, this could be a long debate, and some people might not even be open to hearing it. But seriously, things have really changed. First off, just take a look at this. This is what we call working in context. How many animators have dreamed of animating with textures, lighting, and near final visuals right in the editor? It might feel obvious now because we can get used to it in Unreal, but it's truly game-changing for the animation industry. You can freely navigate your scene at any time and actually see what's going on while animating. For a scene like this one, my first warp pass is even done without a proper camera, which just shows how flexible the workflow is. And sure, this isn't brand new, but in 5.6, everything feels much more streamlined and ready for serious production. Take shortcuts, for example. In the editor preferences under the sequencer section, there are tons of useful bindings you can set up to boost your workflow like never before. Things like step to next key or step to previous key directly from the viewport are game changers when it comes to animating smoothly. And with 5.6, the rig animation sections introduce even more great tools like mirror controls, reset pose, and the space picker tab shortcut. These might seem small, but they really make a big difference. Trust me, take the time to tweak these settings to match your needs. These are what we call quality of life improvements. They might seem minor, especially to experienced users of other DCC tools, but they show how committed Epic is to developing and improving animation directly within the engine. Performance is also a big deal, and with 5.6, a lot of progress has been made. Just take a look at this scene. I've got millions of triangles in here, and even the character is pretty heavily subdivided, yet I'm still getting high FPS. That kind of performance keeps getting better with every release, whether it's nanites in general or in this case, specific improvements in animation. If you compare it with 5.4 or 5.5, you'll definitely notice improvements while animating directly in the editor. Keys and curves are now evaluated in a smarter way than before. I already touched on this in previous video, but now when you play your sequence in the sequencer, all the transform values of a control in the Animator's panel are grayed out, meaning they are no longer being recalculated in real time. This saves a lot of overhead. The curve editor also benefits from performance improvements, and there are a few tricks you can use to make it even smoother. For example, under the View menu, you can temporarily disable tangents, which helps the curve editor breathe a bit when you're working with a lot of curves at once. One of the best additions to animation in Unreal is the ability to use deformers directly in the sequencer. This comes with the Animator Kit plugin. You now have access to two main types of deformers that you can layer on top of your existing animation. Sure, you could add those deformers straight into your control rig, but that setup is a bit more advanced. I'll try to break that down for you guys soon. Also, if you've seen my earlier video on the topic, you know this feature isn't brand new in 5.6, but it's super important for animation, and I'm sure we'll even see more cool developments around it in the future of Unreal. Now speaking of the Animator Kit plugin, it's honestly become essential for any in-engine animation workflow. Besides the deformers I mentioned, it gives you access to additional control rig utilities that make it easier to set up quick and complex constraints. It also lets you activate the new experimental Gizmo, which is kind of a must-have when animating compared to the default one. You don't even need to dig through editor preferences to activate it anymore. It's right up here in the top toolbar under the Use Experimental Gizmo option. As the name suggests, it's still experimental, so you might run into some weird behavior occasionally. If that happens, just toggle it off and on again, it usually does the trick. If you've been animating in Unreal Engine, let's say in 5.2 or 5.3, you've probably remember how frustrating it was to set up constraints. It was not very stable and kind of tricky to properly set up. That's also been improved. After hours of testing and animating, I run into almost no issues lately. You've now got more flexibility with constraints. They can be based on the level sequence, which is great for spawnable actors, or level based for processable or always visible objects in your scene. And when I talk about improvements, I mostly mean stability and performance, because those two things really matter when you're deep into production. If we circle back to the sequencer for a moment, Unreal Engine 5.6 introduced a great new feature you can see right away, the Sequence Navigation tool. If you ever worked on a linear project in Unreal, you know how quickly you can end up with tons of level sequences all nested inside each other. And when you just want to tweak something in one specific shot, you usually have to dig through a not so friendly hierarchy of subsequences. Now with this new tool, a single click gives you a full overview of your sequence structure. It's also fully customizable, just right-click in the title bar to adjust the view to your needs. This example uses a small project, but trust me, in a production environment, this is a game changer. Another big game changer for me in 5.6 is the quick render. For animators, and really for anyone, being able to launch a render in just a few clicks with minimal setup is fantastic. No need to dive into console variable or mess around with post-process volume materials anymore. You'll see a little teapot icon appear once the Movie Render Cut plugin is enabled. And from there, it's super simple to use. What I usually do is open the settings first. You can choose whether to render from your sequence camera or just from the current viewport camera. Then under Apply Viewport Look, you can pick a few flags, like view modes for instance. That means you can do a quick Playblast render directly from your active viewport look. Whether it's unlit, clay style or any other view modes that used to be tricky to render out, now it just works. It's been a highly requested feature by animators and now it's here. It helps you quickly get a feel of your final scene without having to go through MRQ or set up a full render graph. As someone who's used Maya and Blender for animation, having all these tools combined with real-time rendering in one place, that's truly a game changer. Sure, Unreal isn't just a software, it's a full engine. The learning curve can be steep at first, but believe me, it's 100% worth it. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities and workflows. And I'm here to help you on that journey, guys. This channel is, and will continue to be, your go-to place to learn animation in Unreal Engine. Oh, and I know what you're thinking. Hey Stefan, what about the Anim Picker? Yeah, that's still something that needs to be streamlined. You can create your own using editor utility widgets, but it's a bit tricky if you're starting from scratch. Don't worry, I'm working on a full video about it. By the way, this Wile E. Coyote scene, I built it in one weekend day. Yes, just one day. I'm not just talking about animation, I mean everything. From environment and lighting to character creation, control rig setup, and final animation. Now of course I'm familiar with the tools, but even so, it's just not comparable to traditional workflows in other DCC software. With 5.6 you can now go from a static mesh to a fully rigged skeletal mesh, complete with control rig, and start animating without ever leaving Unreal. That's incredibly powerful, and it reflects a real shift happening in the industry. A lot of professional studios are already using Unreal for linear content. We've seen it in animated series, film, and other production, especially for layouts and rendering. The missing piece until recently was animation. Making that shift is a big leap for most animation studios. Animation departments tend to be large, and artists have often been using tools like Maya for years. So yeah, the transition isn't always easy. But imagine a pipeline where you don't need tons of imports and exports, where you don't have to rebuild your Maya rig inside Unreal, and most importantly, where you're no longer relying on Alembic caches, which aren't great for performance anyway. So why you should animate in Unreal Engine starting with 5.6? Well, because now you have everything you need to animate like a pro. All the tools, all the quality of life features any animator would want are here. And the industry is transitioning sooner than you think. Studios will be looking for Unreal animators, and there's never been a better time to jump in. So come and dive into Unreal with me. Learn to animate here on this channel, and you'll be amazed at what the engine can do. And that's it for today, guys. I hope this video will make you want to animate in Unreal like never before. Let me know in the comments if you really want to, and don't forget to subscribe if you are new to the channel. See you next Tuesday for a new one. Ciao!